Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Emily Carr and welcome to the Kamshua village. This was one of my favorite places to paint growing up. I was born in Victoria, December 13, 1871. Being the second youngest of 9 children, I was a rebellious child and liked exploring. I showed lots of artistic talents, but I only took them seriously after my parents died in 1890. In 1891, I traveled to San Francisco to study art for 2 years. A few years after I got back, I took my first visits to Aboriginal villages on sketching trips. Their way of living really fascinated me, and they really seemed to accept me as one of their people. After seeing their art, I was inspired to advance my own art skills. In 1899, I traveled all the way across the globe to study at the Westminster School of Art in London. There, I took a palette of pastel colors like pinks and yellows, much different from my later and famous style. After some years in London, I returned to BC in 1905. I started teaching at a ladies' art club in Vancouver. However, I only remained teaching there for 1 month. According to my students, they didn't like me, especially when I started cursing at them. Still inspired to immerse myself in art, I headed off to the Académie Colarossi in France, this time accompanied by my sister Alice. Alice and I met a man named Henry Gibb, who was a massive influence on my art. Henry and I started working together, and I adopted a new style from him with little detail, bold colors, much different from the style I used in London. Over my time at France, I worked with many post-impressionists and fauvists who all really inspired me. Upon returning to BC in 1912, I became the first artist to introduce fauvism to Vancouver. I opened up an art studio in Vancouver, very excited to show my new style. Sadly, none of the locals took interest in it. As you might imagine, that would be quite frustrating. Over the summer, I did some painting trips, and it was the first time I visited the Kamshua village. It always seemed to be lush and green. It was truly beautiful. The Nime Kliwik translated to the laughing one. For the next 15 years, I didn't do much painting, and I owned a boarding house called the House of All Sorts, later to be a name of one of the books I wrote. I also was a dog breeder for a while, and I owned a monkey named Wu. In 1927, I was invited to an art show in Toronto. There, a man named Lauren Harris approached me and said he loved my art. I was very excited, for this man was a member of the Group of 7, Canada's best artists. Me and the group worked together lots, but I wasn't actually ever considered a part of a group of 8 or anything. Over the early 30s, I did tons of painting trips, and I started to be recognized across the globe. But in 1937 and 39, I suffered from heart attacks. I became frail, so I moved in with my sister Alice. Not being able to travel meant I couldn't paint anymore. I started putting my energy into writing books, my first being called Kliwik. I earned a Governor's General Award for it and wrote another 7. But in 1940, I suffered a stroke, and in 1942, another heart attack. My last heart attack was in 1945, the reason I died. I hope my art inspires Canadians to appreciate our heritage and everything around us. Thank you.